Hello and welcome to Trek Prime Episode 28. We're almost near 30 here, and I had a number of subjects that were kind of in circulation for tonight, but there was one that we ended up deciding on because the other subjects were too close to something we'd already done. So the subject of the day is the Replicator. Now, this is a much busier subject than I realized because the idea of that didn't exist when they first did Star Trek. And I had to look on Exastia Scientia to get some information on that because, So with the Replicator thing, where do we want to start? We want to start at the beginning of Star Trek or the beginning of it all in Enterprise? I mean, how do we...
we could start there. I'm not even sure what they were really using. I think they just had something that looked like a candy machine kind of thing. The food is already there, it's all made, and they just grab what they wanted out of it or something.
You mean an Enterprise?
Yeah, on Enterprise, it was like the food was already prepared, and they just grabbed what they wanted out of it.
It was almost like a slot.
Yeah.
Because I hate to pop over to another series here, but I remember in the early years of TNG, do you remember they were still calling it a food slot?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody started calling it Replicator.
Mm.
And every word that got associated, there was Replimat. Yeah. But you never heard that food slot again. That was like a second season thing of that. So, but I guessing the things on Enterprise were actually, food slots. That's what they were. So, okay. Here's what is said about the food slots or food processors on TOS, on the old Connie. And they may have been able to create simple meals from raw ingredients. And we can see them in the rec room, in the Trouble with Tribbles, and Naked Time. And there's a food processor in the transporter room because when they beam that guy up from the Air Force Base, he had chicken soup and they made it in there for him and the whatever, so.
Well, nice to have a workstation where you had food right there behind you whenever you wanted it. You didn't have to step away and go eat.
And, it said that there's evidence that this is food that's just transported there that's made in an actual kitchen.
Yeah.
So, and we saw kitchens on the refit, Connie. Yeah. So do you think that's basically what happened, that those were not replicators, but they were actually just machines that beamed in food that were made in kitchens? Like a cafeteria sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there were some things that probably created it. Like those colored cubes and stuff like that.
Oh, the cubes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the food, like the chicken soup, seemed to be real soup. We didn't see the soup, but I'm hoping it wasn't when he smelled it, he seemed to give an indication it was in a bowl. I can't imagine it was a bowl full of little yellow cubes. I would hate to, or maybe it's a bowl of liquid with chicken cubes in it. But I got the impression it was real chicken cubes. Real chicken. It wasn't cubes, but oftentimes you get little cubes of things.
Yeah.
Yet sometimes, like characters like the Dolmen of Elos, she was eating what appeared to be real food. Like she had this turkey that was kind of greenish.
Yeah. I'm like I said before, I think what happened is they probably brought that food just for her to eat. Because, she probably was native food probably for her.
Well, she probably went in there and demanded it with some sort of weapon, and they probably gave it to her considering the character, but So yeah, but she was eating what appeared to be real food with some kind of food coloring on it, but it was real meat of some sort.
Yeah.
And they had Saurian brandy on the ship, so the alcohol was, I guess, real.
Yeah.
So okay. I've hogged up that conversation so far, so why don't you add your tidbits about the 23rd century replicator / food slot, whatever.
Well, I think some things they could make that weren't very sophisticated, like the cubes and stuff like that. But if they wanted something, like a real meal or something like that, they probably went to the kitchen to prepare it, which goes back to my old debate with my father about how do you store all this food on a ship for 5 years?
Yes.
And I said, well, they have to stop at space stations every now and then to get supplies. But if they do that, then they're not going where no man has gone before, are they? Because they have to go wherever, where there's a station.
This goes way off base, but when I was younger, they used to have these episodes where you would hear Starfleet assigned us to this and assigned us to that. And I would think, wait a minute, if they're out there exploring strange new worlds, how come Starfleet is assigning them everywhere? And then I was, oh, that's right. They're just assigning them over subspace. They're not going back to Starfleet,
Yeah.
But, like you said, it couldn't really work because then they'd be just, well, it's 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds. Unless we need to go back and get stuff for food, It would just be a long theme song, really. And
so
then
you could only patrol out so far, and then they have to turn around and come back, which is why I say that the starships have to get bigger as time goes on, so that way they can carry more supplies to go out further. And, but then, of course, technology comes into play when you go into the next generation, and now those things actually create the food from, particles of, molecular particles and stuff like that, like carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, stuff like that, to create a pork chop or something. They don't have to really have food on hand. It just comes from, inert material, basically. And
so
transporter kind of effect.
You think that explains the blockiness of the food? That it's exacting.
It's just what with the as going back to the 23rd century with the blocks. I think what it is just they just take what vitamins and stuff like that and they put it into a tasty kind of a compact form.
like a bar kind of, or like
it's sort of like that.
Everything was like Jolly Ranchers or something,
like an energy bar or something, but it's it looks colored and everything.
And it goes right with the space age of the time, everything being freeze dried and stuff like that.
I remember on when they had a bunch of ambassadors on the ship and they had those cubes inside a drink. Remember that?
Journey to Babel. They're throwing the cubes in the.
Yeah, they had them. So I guess you can mix those cubes with water or some kind of fluid, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love it what's in those cubes because you never see them again.
So
you go back to Enterprise, they actually had a chef on the NX-01.
Yeah.
Prepared actual food.
Yeah.
So it was just like a cafeteria. They just had an actual chef. I wonder if there was a place like that on the Connie, if there was like a chef or something.
Yeah, well, we saw in Star Trek 6 they had a kitchen.
Right. By the way, happy 27th, Star Trek 6. We're going to get to you next week, I guess. So.
Yeah, next week, yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to shout that out. But yeah, we saw people making these, was it turkeys or chickens or some bird?
Yeah.
Because that Valeris shot at the thing, and this dough was still there.
Yeah, I know. It just
the dough was sitting there with this thing in it.
That was a silly scene there.
She blew the pot off, and the dough was still sitting there, and all the alarms are going off, which is weird because you think that they fired ships and the phasers on the ship before, you don't hear all those alarms. So
yeah. And then in TOS, they want to do that Thanksgiving kind of thing with meat.
Yes, with the synthetic meatloaf. I guess they couldn't make turkey.
So they can do some things with the kitchen, I guess, when the need arises to make something sophisticated that the food processors can't create, So
then all of a sudden, Kirk makes this cryptic remark in Mark of Gideon to that what was her name, O'Donna, that the ship had enough food to feed a crew of 430 for 5 years. And just the way that was stated, I thought, like you said about talking to your father, how on earth could they have fit that amount of food onto a ship that size?
Well, here's the thing. Let's go to Voyager here for a second. Now, this is 80 years into the future. Now, if it's true that the old Connie could carry that much food, how was it after the first episode of Voyager they were already running low on supplies and they needed to find?
They had a replicator.
They must have some big bellies on that ship because the minute they left, they must have started munching on everything they could.
And they had a replicator on the ship. So you gotta wonder, did they have 50 crew members who were over 900 pounds or something?
Yeah, I mean, God, the ship only carried about 150, and the ship was as big as the Excelsior. And it's like,
right. But like I said, that's a continuity thing that. Okay, so we kind of out of the 23rd
just check out the second episode of Voyager, and right off the bat, they're all worried about energy.
Because there's a whole meeting they're talking about conserving energy, and it's like they've been out there for like a week.
Yeah, only a week, and it seemed like they've been out there for 100 years, and they're already worried about not having enough fuel to get.
Yeah, you would think they'd run into that more in the second or third year of the show.
Yeah, they should have been able to go quite a ways without worrying about that. But no, she wants to minimize the use of the replicator, and we have to ration this out and ration that out. It's like, well, geez, you only got 150 people on that ship.
Well, I always just figured that the reason why is because the ship was applied for exactly one mission, to go to the Badlands. It wasn't a fully stocked ship. That's all I could think of.
Yeah, I guess.
Like they just gave him piddly supplies and said, you only have one mission. Oops, you have to check the other quadrant. Screw you.
Maybe it wasn't Tuesday and none of the supplies showed up. I don't know.
Yes, this is the John Harriman rule. Oops, we put the ship out on a Monday. It wasn't a Tuesday. Yes, we didn't put all the stuff onto it. That's everything in Starfleet is like everything's Tuesday because of John Rock. Thank you.
So the Connie, when Kirk was, like you were saying, the Mark of Gideon, when he was talking about how much food he had on the ship, it's like I said, what do they got? Pallets in the shuttle bay, stacked with canned goods and stuff like that.
Walking around with these big things, fruits and vegetables, these little cubes that they're gonna, it would be interesting if you saw that, but you didn't. So there's this weird.
Or just like remember that movie Das Boot, and they had like vegetables hanging off of the inside of the submarine, had bananas everywhere, and I was.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like weird if they had like these fruit and stuff hanging from the corridors. They were just like.
Yeah, they got bread hanging off of the ceiling and stuff. They got bananas and apples and.
Yeah, I can see it now. Bob, don't run into the bread.
Look like an old barge going through space.
Right. You couldn't have like bread on a rope hanging from the corridor, in that ship. So I don't know where they store the stuff.
We maximize our space here.
And, it reminds me how much, because watching Trek Yards. Hi, Stuart. Hi, Samuel. How little of the Connie we actually saw in the TOS.
That's true.
I mean, we saw a corridor here. We saw some little tube they crawl into there. There was all these parts that we didn't really see.
Yeah.
So I would love to see where maybe there were these giant tanks, not the J.J. Abrams tank, but there was like some tanks that had something in it.
I remember on Enterprise when they had that Mirror Universe episode and they had the Defiant, and they actually built some extra sets that showed some of the bowels of the ship.
Yes, that was nice to have some extra parts we didn't see in TOS.
And the funny part about seeing those parts was that the bowels of the ship seemed as wide as the corridors. Well, that really can't be, because if you're going, like in sort of like the upper parts in between the decks, they would be really skinny, and narrow. But they made those really wide and stuff like that. So I don't know. I had a kind of bit of a, that doesn't seem logical.
It's weird. We know how big the refit Connie is in terms of size of the Excelsior, because we've seen them together side by side in Star Trek 6 again.
Yeah.
But nobody's really sure how big the original Connie was to the refit.
Yeah.
There's speculation, but I don't think it's all that much bigger. I think it's, whatever accommodated the new stuff they put onto it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some things on that where they had the refit like the size of the JJ ship practically, but
it's not even
the Excelsior. Well, the JJ ship is transdimensional, so I'm not going to get into that. That changes for whatever they need it for.
Depends on the water.
The refit, it is just like an slight expansion of the original. I don't think that much bigger, honestly. I think it's about the same.
The saucer's just a little bit wider.
But hardly anything. I don't think it's a big.
Yeah, it's not much bigger.
Because they still have the original Connie skeleton under there, right?
Yeah, more or less. They have the frame. Yeah.
There's still the frame under there, so it has to fit that frame.
Yeah.
So the thing about that is the original Connie being a somewhat thinner ship. Yeah, I'm guessing that somewhere in the secondary hull there's something that holds something. I don't know. There's like a storage room or a cargo bay they hold this up. I don't know what they do. It's just with the
I guess you'd have to refer to the blueprints that were drawn of it, to see where they would. And it seems like really the shuttle bay and areas around it would be ideal for cargo. And I mean, when we saw Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and they had that the shuttle bay went all the way back, almost practically to the engineering section, which was huge, a huge space just cut out inside that secondary hull just for the shuttle bay. And then also where the shuttle bay, underneath that shuttle bay, there was all these cargo areas like storage units and everything like that, and so
yeah,
they really opened it up.
There's a lot of different stuff that was going on there. Yeah. And so with TOS, and now when I had Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise, they actually had a food processor that we didn't really see much in the movies, if at all. Yeah. And it actually had a menu, like a menu you could use.
Yeah.
For specific things. Now to the next generation. Sometime, I don't know when. I don't know if the Enterprise B had them. I don't know if the Enterprise C had them. But sometime in that period, somebody invented something called a replicator that use bulk. I'm guessing from what I'm reading here. Bulk antimatter, or apparently the word antimatter in Star Trek refers to something called antideuterium, which is the only form of antimatter used in the Federation, which is used to power starships. And
it's like bulk matter or something, you know.
right, and this is used with a combination of proteins and such by this machine to basically replicate. I'm not sure if it's real food or something that tastes and looks like real food. There's a messy area there because you see in Star Trek, some people actually describe wanting real food as if replicated stuff is fake.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, they
So
say.
I don't know if that's just people with sensitive palates, or I mean, it could be like how now you'll get something in the store like a TV dinner, and people will still want real food, even though it is real food. They just want something home cooked.
Yeah.
It could be. You think it's more like that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're making, I suppose. I mean, I remember on what was it, on Enterprise, they were talking about how they replicate stuff. I mean, remember Trip was
Yeah,
talking
you think
about,
they recycle everything,
yeah, how they
including
recycle
their human
stuff.
waste.
So yeah, and like you said, with that they can make anything like from some tools to clothes or something like that. So I mean, they had something like a replicator then, which kind of is shocking because they have a transporter that really they don't really use or not supposed to use in a way to bring biomatter into, because it wouldn't survive, I guess, or something like that. So they would just bring equipment with it. You know, it's things like that aren't going to be radically destroyed by the transporter. So I mean, they were hesitant. Remember, they didn't even want to use it at first, but they kind of, you know,
Right, 'cause the
stuck it
transporter
up
wasn't
and
that
went ahead
old.
and used it. So for them to make something, you know, using a transporter-like technology would suggest that that transporter they had wasn't really such a prototype, because they've already had something before that they shrunk down where they could make tools and clothes and stuff like that with. You know what I'm saying? So it was a kind of a contradiction there.
You know, they always say technology gets smaller as time goes on. Sometimes
Yeah.
it starts from a small thing too and grows into a bigger thing. And the replicator, and the first transporter technology may have started out as a food device.
Yeah.
Or like maybe transporting small things, and then that was one of the first bigger scale transporters.
Yeah.
Remember, they didn't mind transporting tools and equipment, but they didn't want to transport biomatter like people.
Yeah.
Even though it says it's safe on people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they just weren't sure. I mean, because remember, what was that scientist that created the transporter? His back was all scarred up from when he volunteered himself to take the first transporter trip, and he said it took a full minute and a half there for the whole thing from being dematerialized to being rematerialized. And you know, he said he got scarred from it.
Yeah.
Like some delta rays or something.
The Bill Cobb character, I can't remember his name now.
Yeah.
Actually, God, I'm gonna need to access your Sanchia a lot tonight.
Yeah, but yeah, he kind of got scarred a little bit from using it. So because he said nobody else wanted to jump into it, so he said, "I'll be the guinea pig and go." Yes.
I know you're talking about though.
Yeah, it was one of those season 4
I
episodes.
think if it was season 4, wasn't his name Emery something?
Yeah, I think it was Emery. I can't remember now, but yeah, it was like the last season of Enterprise, and they had an episode of him because he knew Archer's father, and Trip was like idolized him a little bit, and I can't.
Emery Erickson, that's right.
Yeah, Erickson. Yeah.
And that's the guy who invented the transporter. Okay,
Yeah.
so that covers that era. But by the replicator as we know it in the Next Generation, do you think that was something that was like brand new on the Galaxy class, or do you think that the Enterprise B and C might have had something like that?
Maybe the Enterprise C. I I wouldn't say the B. I mean, maybe the B at some point might have got those installed later, much later, when it's serviced. But
Mm.
you know,
The reason I asked is because Picard clearly said he remembered his parents, who would have been around before the Enterprise C,
that's right.
having discussions about replicators being in the house.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that sometime either in the B or the C era, replicators were at least around.
Yeah.
They might have been an integral part of the Enterprise B for all I know, except not installed till Tuesday because, Enterprise B. But, so everything didn't get there till Tuesday on that ship. So. Talk about a weird... Generation's going to be full of that, so we can do that review. So everything's going to be till Tuesday on that review. But anyway, the thing is that, so yeah, I always guessed that the Enterprise B at some point had one, maybe later in its run.
Yeah.
Or maybe it had one to begin with. I don't know. For all we know, when they decommissioned that Connie, when Kirk went off, they put replicators in that thing. I don't know how far they go back. I mean, but they had them by Next Generation for sure. They weren't new technology. We found that out.
Yep.
And about those replicators, would it be incorrect to say they came in multiple sizes? I asked this because on the Enterprise, you see a little slot in the wall.
Yeah.
But in one episode, when they beamed down to what was that planet where with Kevin and Rashawn? What was it called? Where
they half most of the planet, 99% of it was devastated.
Yeah, there was this weird little house that just was magically there.
An acre of ground, and that was all that was left.
Right. It was a very surreal setup, actually, because like, how is this little area so exactly spared? Like, squared right off perfectly. But it turned out the guy was just an alien who could create false surroundings, which is, maybe if he made it a little less exact, it might have been credible. But like, it was exactly groomed to that house, like exactly. Like they just cut right around it, But anyway, the point is that they beamed down a replicator to them, which is this huge blocky thing.
Yeah. Very
different from what you saw. So I'm thinking there's industrial replicators. There's maybe that was a house model, like a model you'd have in a house.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, at the same time, the planet was devastated, and they needed something to purify their water. So maybe that also did that too. I don't know.
A replicator will create water.
Yeah.
And they have the technology on Voyager that they say could manufacture water out of nothing.
Yeah.
Out of the air. Well, it makes sense because, condensation and everything. So, actually we have that technology kind of now. So,
yeah.
That's not that big a leap that Voyager could create and purify water out of thin air. That's a very easy, H2O is a very easy chemical basis to come up with if you're putting priority on it.
Yeah, I wish they would take the idea of being able to take oil out of the water. What was it? Kevin Costner had some device that could do that, and they tested it when they had that big oil spill there in the Gulf. And he come up with some contraption, some people that he knew when they tested it there, how to separate the water from the oil. So I don't know if how well that worked out, and if it did, I don't know why they ain't making mass production of that, because there's still a lot of oil floating around out there.
For more information on this, refer to our video on the New World Economy. Anyway, that kind of explains a lot of this. So we have a video back there somewhere about that explains that kind of stuff. So anyway, you're right though. But that if we had that kind of thing, they'd probably put priority on. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it would be nice to have that.
But yeah, like I said, you know how it is in our world. All money goes toward endless wars. That's
somebody comes up with a new idea, and the government comes knocking and says, "Give it to me, we want it," and then they don't.
Mission. That's usually what ends up happening. So, but like I said, I'm hoping that like I said, refer to our New World Economy video for more on this.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is that So, but now we get to Deep Space Nine, and they have Replimat. And they're
using Cardassian technology.
Right, and their replicators, I don't know, everything Cardassian seems to be kind of half-baked.
Yeah, it's like a little snap from what we're used to on Federation ships and stuff like that,
and they don't program to Federation standards.
What was it? I think it was like a season 2 or 3 episode of Deep Space Nine, and Gul Dukat, that the station was locking itself down, and Dukat shows up and he replicates some kind of a robotic phaser that was shooting shooting up the ops station. Remember that? Oh yeah. So I mean, their replicators can make weapons. I don't know if they allow that on a starship.
We know the replicators won't just willy-nilly create Starfleet uniforms.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm guessing they keep those in storage because Neelix asked for a uniform, but they didn't give it to him.
Yeah.
Maybe Tuvok should have just said to him, "Well, we can't give you a uniform. We can give you a garbage sweater with all kinds of Wesley sweaters,
You can replicate a sweater with all of my stripes on it and everything.
If we can replicate garbage sweaters Wesley Crusher wore 7 years ago. So, I mean, I'm just saying that they probably replicate that stuff. I mean, maybe that's what that Wesley stuff was. Maybe that was replicated fake uniforms. I mean, I don't know if I don't know the uniforms. I don't know if they have like a specific amount for the ship. I don't know if they have a replacement area.
Yeah.
I don't know because but uniforms are another discussion. But
we kind of went through that anyway with.
Well, yeah. The reason I mentioned that I was watching a thing about Star Trek the other day, a video where they were talking about Kirk being hard in his uniforms, always ripping them apart.
I know, it's almost every episode.
And I'm wondering, they couldn't have replicated those. So I was like, geez, what do you have a supply of endless uniforms you could just rip to pieces if he fought something?
When he wasn't ripping them up, other people were ripping them up. Remember when McCoy steps on the bridge and McCoy just rips the side of his shirt open and gives him an injection? It's like, well, he used to be able to go right through the sleeve. You didn't have to rip his shirt off.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if Crusher had to do that? Like, take the crust and rip it off. It would have been like an episode of Fame, everybody ripping their shirts off. And
it's like, well, that won't come later till the Incredible Hulk. We'll see that happen a lot then, but,
that's what Kirk was like. Kirk, man! Ripping his shirt off, put a hypo into it. But, yeah, really, I in the days before Replicators, I don't know where those uniforms came from because maybe there's a code, like, you can replicate a uniform if you have a code.
Yeah, if some code that verifies that you're a Starfleet member, so.
Yeah, otherwise it's like, well, you can just get crap Wesley sweaters, but.
You're a civilian, no, we don't give you that, so, I mean.
Right, but like I said, there were alternate realities or simulated where Neelix had a uniform.
Voyager, those fake Voyager people are the one you keep laughing about with the big badges. They were able to replicate or create those uniforms.
Well, the wonderful world of hacks.
Maybe they were hand sewn.
And remember, those were hacked uniforms. If you looked at them, they were obviously hacked.
I know the badge was
like this thing and
the badge.
And they were all fitting wrong and.
Yeah, the badge looked big, but the uniform looked like it was, maybe it was sewn together or something like that.
Yeah, it looked a little off. The portions were a little bit messy here. It looked like they were. Like maybe you went to the black market or the Delta Quadrant and bought counterfeit Starfleet uniforms from somebody, I mean, who knows? They took stuff from the computer. So, I mean, I'm sure if they have the technology, they can just hack it and make, counterfeit clothes.
Not like it's impossible to do it yourself, if you can't.
And they were very obviously counterfeit. You could see they didn't look anything like the.
I mean, even
the portions were all off.
The rank pins were like the size of quarters,
The pips were enormous, and the collar was all crazy. They weren't quite right. So you can see how counterfeited uniforms look. I mean, who knows? Maybe a counterfeit uniform in Kirk's would look like what we're wearing now. Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to replicator technology.
Yeah.
Replicators apparently could also malfunction because there was one episode where Crusher was in sick bay and the replicator created like this glass of something that had a fountain.
Yeah, it just kept making liquid. It wouldn't stop.
It kept making whatever it was making.
Yeah.
And kept telling it to stop. And I was surprised it wasn't leaking on the floor, but it wasn't.
Yeah. And, 20th century response would have been to kick it, pound it, punch it,
Like Brian.
I mean, that's what we do when we're confronted with something.
That's what O'Brien did on Deep Space Nine. Had him kicking this, kicking that.
Yeah.
Get the transporter to make it work.
Yeah.
That was Canadian Cardassian, though. But still,
I was kind of shocked that, Crusher was just standing there and watching the fluid just all over the floor. And, she just sitting there, like, please shut off. Please shut off.
That was Bones. He'd be like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Pull it right out. Like, damn machine. Pulled the thing right out and said, Jim, we got a problem in engineering. Get Scotty down here or whatever. He would have dealt with it. Crusher was being very passive about it. Like, I've seen this before. Big deal. Who cares?
Yeah, really.
Maybe it was an industrial thing that... Now, another replicator thing that I find personally hilarious is whatever abuse Janeway gave to it to have it make burnt food.
Yeah, how do you...
I don't know what full of abuse she put in her replicator to get her to make burned meat.
I mean, is she unable to give the proper instructions on how to make what she wanted? Is that how it happened?
Unless she said, okay, make said meat product and make it well done.
Or did she say it in degrees, like cook it, or make it come out in so many degrees, and maybe she said too high a degree, maybe 500.
I would think they have a safety precaution in there, unless Janeway disabled it.
Yeah, I mean,
like, please ruin my food.
The very idea that when you take the idea of making a replicator that creates food, no matter what it's, because Picard, remember, it's tea Earl Grey hot, and it comes out bingo, But she tries to create something with meat, and it comes out burnt. I mean, it's like, how the hell do you make that jump? When you tell a replicator to make something, the replicator makes something that's burnt. I mean, you can't.
Well, I always wondered if Janeway being inside, if she went in there and did something to it and screwed it up and.
Yeah, but Picard was kind of laughing about it, and it's like, he didn't. It's like wasn't shocked that it came out burnt. Maybe she does it a lot.
Well, like I said, remember, she always has those little peanut butter sandwiches under there and that plastic thing handy.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
apparently she's not known for her culinary skills.
Yeah.
She burned meat with Chakotay, like you said. When that Lindsay Ballard came on, she burned that dinner. So she's burned at least 2 things of meat. She's obviously doesn't even know how to replicate meat. Yeah,
God, and they make fun of Neelix's food. At least he knows how to cook.
Well, it's maybe odd, but he knows how to cook it.
Yeah.
I mean, he has those oven things in there, those big, like, they look like drums, but at least they work for what they're doing. They're like woks.
Yeah.
At least he knows what to do with it, rather than Janeway using a technology they've had for well over 50 years.
Keep her away. I mean, all she knows how to make is coffee. Just leave it at that. I mean, don't keep her the hell away from the replicator.
She's not a cook. It would be weird if Janeway was one of these people, you put her in a real kitchen, she can make things perfect in a real kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument I was going around that maybe she was a caffeine addict, because, and I was
there's
thinking,
coffee in that nebula.
But the thing of it is that there's more caffeine in tea than there is in coffee. So could you make the same argument with Picard saying that he's a caffeine addict because he's always drinking tea?
Well, now Ladarin did.
Yeah.
She said, you shouldn't be drinking a stimulant this time, and so she gave him some herb tea that he hated.
Yeah.
But evidently she found one that he liked because he was giving it to Crusher.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's, you would think by the time of the future that caffeine would be something they would probably
And if you notice on Next Generation too, everybody's always ordering tea on that show.
Yeah.
Especially if they have V names. Like I noticed that Troy orders a lot of Valerian tea, which I'm guessing meaning she's tired. She's wired and wants to go to sleep because that's what Valerian does.
Yeah.
And and then some alien thing called Viridian tea.
Yeah.
And Crusher was ordering lemon tea one time. So everybody's ordering tea on that ship. There's a tea Earl Grey. There's a big tea thing.
Bunch of tea drinkers. Everybody's
tea oriented. Where Janeway's all coffee and.
If it was and then there's Ractagino. That was another big.
That's coffee.
That's
coffee.
On coffee, I guess, is what that was.
That's the Cisco drink. He's like this Ractagino.
Yeah.
Which I guess Cardassian stuff can replicate. They can replicate Klingon stuff. So.
Yeah.
Well,
by then, I guess they would have, especially when you're at the habitat ring, or in the middle there were Quark's bars and stuff. I guess they would have all kinds of varieties of different kinds of food from different races.
Now, didn't we discuss the runabout replicators had a specific menu of stuff you could eat?
Well, that goes, that actually, we could go back to Next Generation Season 2, where I think it was, where Picard and Wesley were going to a planet where Picard was supposed to get a heart.
They had these little sandwiches.
And they replicated that out of the shuttle. Now, why is it none of the other shuttlecrafts, in the subsequent seasons ever had replicators in them? Because, that seemed to be a kind of a luxurious little shuttlecraft, but I
like those shuttles a lot. They seem to be able to do a lot of nice things.
Yeah.
I don't know why they stopped using them. They had replicators on them. They had that big, nice room in back, and then they had these little stubby things.
Yeah. It was like a smaller version of a runabout,
Yeah, it went with the Galaxy. It was that kind of big, luxurious.
Yeah.
Stuff on it, kind of.
Yeah, and said they went to the cargo-looking shuttle, which I hated. I never liked that.
That little boxy thing, that didn't like it too much. Maybe he did a replicator, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But like I said, they replicated the little sandwiches on the. But like I said, I'm gathering the runabout or the shuttle replicators were a little lower powered.
Yeah.
because I think they were on a roundabout. Odo and one of the Wayones, the one that defected.
Yeah.
And he was saying, you've ordered the entire menu on the runabout.
Yeah.
Unless he ordered like a million things.
Yeah, remember he was sampling everything, basically just, he says you like the texture of foods. You couldn't taste it, but you like the textures.
So I guess maybe the replicators aren't limited. They just have you just ordered everything on it. I don't know.
You can make whatever you want, apparently,
Because you can recycle it all. They put things into it and say recycle. So
yeah, whatever they don't eat, they put it back in there and they just turn it back into atoms and particles and whatever again.
Because Chip did say they recycle everything. So
yeah.
Which again refer back to our New World Economy video for information about future sustainability in Star Trek. But yeah, the replicator kind of goes along with that. But yeah, I don't really know
the idea of having to do the dishes. Nobody wants to do the dishes. So I mean, it's like a motivation. Hey, let's get rid of the dishwashing experience in the dishwashers. Let's just put the stuff back in the replicator and it just dissolves. And
yep. So here's your dishes. Tomorrow's lunch.
Yeah, I had tomorrow's lunch.
But Chip also implied that human waste was also used for that purpose. So
yeah. Well. Everything breaks down into the same particles, basically. Everything is made up of the same, atoms and molecules and stuff. It's all how it's formed is what it makes.
It makes you wonder, in Star Trek, stuff like basically just throw it to a replicator and never mind where to put your trash, just cycle it into your dinner or whatever you need.
It comes back to you as a chicken leg, or
it comes with the molecules.
Yeah,
they can manipulate matter. So it's really cool technology, actually. And I think one that inspires a lot of people scientifically today because, like I said, again, refer back to our New World Economy episode, because the replicator would, of course, you'd really have to have a different framework in society for it.
Yeah.
You couldn't really have a society like ours because...
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, they... I don't know if you caught this on Netflix, but there's a show on there about tech toys. It's called Tech Toys.
Yeah, the one that had the hoverboard you mentioned, the guy had the hoverboard.
I mean, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, will you think there'll be a hoverboard in your lifetime? I'd have said, hell no. I said, because we ain't even figured out yet how to make anything like that hover off the ground. Here's this fellow out in California that made the very first hoverboard, and I was like, I can't believe he did it. And he's sitting there. He had a skateboard ramp built, and he's sitting there going, riding it. He says there was enough power to power it for 5 minutes. He had to recharge it, but he said it kept you, just about that high off the ground all the time.
That's how technologies are. They initially take years in development, and then they start progressing fast.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't say now. I mean, is transporters is something that's ridiculous and never happened? I don't know. I thought hoverboards would be something that would never happen, and apparently it's going to happen. Probably before I'm dead and buried, you're going to see kids outside playing on hoverboards. So hey, a lot can change in just 50 years. I mean, look, we sitting talking about Back to the Future there and that hoverboard thing, and everybody was laughing about it, and then now all of a sudden here we got it, where it's coming right to it.
Because they were branded by Mattel, I thought it was going to be like the new Christmas toy of 1990 or something.
Yeah,
I never thought of it as being something I was laughing at. I always thought it was, I that all seemed plausible. But there were certain things we just couldn't foresee. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, then you can make hover cars. You don't have to have wheels anymore.
But like I said, I'm thinking that the replicator is a symptom of the post-scarcity world of Star Trek, which is why I don't really understand if they can recycle matter in the replicator. I don't understand why the replicators couldn't also recycle certain elements of power. Which is why I wonder why, after only a week of being in the Delta Quadrant, Voyager was so low on energy and supplies.
Yeah, I know. I mean, just after 1 week in the Delta Quadrant, and they're already starving for energy. And it's like, come on, the ship is huge. I mean, there's only 150 people on it, and you're already telling the crew we've got to ration this, and Neelix has to grow some food in this place in the, it's like this unused cargo space, and he's got to make food so that people won't be using the replicators all the time. And it just didn't make sense. It was like maybe the ship was smaller than it should. Maybe they should have started with a smaller ship, maybe like a Nova class or something. A little ship like that.
Yeah, that's why when the Nova class was out there and had problems, I could sort of see why it was a smaller ship.
Yeah.
But with Voyager, it was a light cruiser, and it wasn't a Galaxy class. No, because a Galaxy class could have survived that whole mission with no problem.
Yeah.
They were designed for missions that long.
Yeah, I don't even remember any episodes on Next Gen where they had to stop for supplies or anything like that.
Well, because actually was considered to be a massive fortress that just,
Yeah,
is self-sustaining. And like you said, they could update it. And
yeah,
change
it was
it.
made to be upgradable. Yeah.
So I don't know. With the Voyager, I don't know. The Intrepid class, I always thought it was kind of a mini Galaxy class, sort of. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it had streamlined versions of Galaxy class technology in there, but it also had that bio-neural circuitry, which was kind of new at the time, but I guess they got rid of it at some point on the show when they went to isolinear chips because the bio-neural wasn't practical or something like that. Maybe they went back to it later.
Well, that was in that same discussion in that second episode, wasn't it? Where they were considering changing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Balana had brought it up, that stuff is just, I mean, because what was it, the bio-neural stuff got sick or something? Remember the doctor was looking at it?
It got some kind of virus.
Yeah, so it wasn't a very practical thing to have that could catch a cold, and then when you're relying on it, it's the control chips were the dominoes.
Oh, yes. These are control chips. I had to put my Chief Engineer McDougal thing in there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the guy doesn't know what they are, really.
Yeah, sitting there building Legos out of them, something. He made a tower.
Well, like I said, we ought to actually do a podcast just on the Naked Now.
Oh, God. The foolishness on that episode was
ridiculous. We took ourselves just laughing at the superior intellect, as Kirk said to call.
It's like there was no writer for that episode. They just said they told the actors to make up something.
Yeah, well,
just go along with it.
Replicators.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. There was an animated episode of the animated series where the ship starts playing jokes on the crew.
Oh yes.
One of the foods throws a bunch of fruits and vegetables at Scotty or something.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did they have replicators?
We're hip deep in desserts.
What?
Remember, he said we're hip deep in desserts.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't know the animated series. I don't know if by then because they had something like a holodeck too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Put that on Star Trek Continues that in the first episode they had a prototype holodeck that Scotty had put together.
Because I mean, that episode where Trip got pregnant on Enterprise, we were talking about that when you came over the other day.
Yeah.
They went to an alien ship that had a holodeck, so
something
they knew about the technology.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But with replicators, I really don't know exactly when they came around as far as what we know in Next Generation. But I would say, would you say the Enterprise C probably had them for sure?
I'm thinking they probably did. Yeah.
Although I don't know. We know so much little about the Enterprise C. Was it more like a TOS kind of ship? Was it more like a TNG one? Because the uniforms were very movie era.
The only part we got to see of that ship was the bridge. And they just used, what was it, the battle bridge, set basically, and they dressed it up some. And if you look at the blueprints of the bridge, it's not very big, and it doesn't seem to fit with the scale of the Enterprise C. It's like a very small bridge.
Because the Enterprise C is closer to the Galaxy class in size. Pretty
close to that size.
Not exactly that size, but it's similar. It's a lot bigger than the Connie.
Yeah, I mean the only reason why the Galaxy looks bigger is because the saucer is ovular shaped and it's wider. So, but the Enterprise C just has
I think the Enterprise C is comparable to a Sovereign class at least.
Yeah,
at least. Although Sovereign's longer, but it could be
longer.
Comparable because the Enterprise C is all stubby. It's kind of But so I don't know. But like I said, the Enterprise C, I know that Trek yards are better at doing that, but I kind of want to do more sketches of starships as characters too, because there's so much we don't know about a lot of these ships. What kind of character they have. So, but in terms of replicators, I'm trying to think of any other replicator oddity. Now, about the holodeck, we could get into that whole holodeck thing another time. Is it implied that some of the stuff on the holodeck is replicated?
I would think so.
I have two reasons for this. And we've discussed this before, maybe on a podcast.
Yeah.
It's the Moriarty situation.
Yeah.
Moriarty draws a picture of the Enterprise, and Data just yanks it out of the holodeck.
Yeah, carries it right out of the holodeck. You know, a picture.
About 2 years later, Picard throws a holographic book out, and boom, it goes away.
Yeah, and then Wesley throws a snowball out of the holodeck, and it hits Picard, and the whole ship gets sick. You know,
right? And in the first episode, he comes out all wet. So
yeah.
And then Data made that cryptic line: "Much of this stuff in the holodeck is real."
Yeah, so maybe some things on the holodeck can come out,
Except
like
books.
like inanimate objects, but the characters themselves probably can't, because
Neither can books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that paper can come right out of the holodeck.
Yeah, apparently. So I think they need to rewrite the rules of the holodeck, because it seems like some things can be replicated on the holodeck and taken out. You know, especially if you're dealing with the same kind of technology, like transporter technology that creates all the stuff that they eat.
I mean, I've said continually the holodeck functions similar to the transporter.
I mean, remember, I think of the Doctor had a holodeck family, and B'Elanna was there, and they were eating and stuff like that. Maybe they had a dinner or something. So I guess
it was replicated food, just like
So I guess the food would have been real. I mean, why would she go there and eat? If it wasn't real. So, So
I'm just thinking that the holodeck mechanics on the Next Generation seemed more specific to the episode, like Wesley coming out wet.
Yeah.
So that must have been real water in that thing.
Yeah.
The snowball probably created from real water. Hit Picard. I don't know how that biocontaminant was created by the holodeck.
Yes, I don't know. They never even explained where that came from.
They did say when they went back to the starbase that the holodeck had problems.
Yeah.
Maybe replicating viruses and almost killed the whole ship.
Replicate holy.
Let's go in there and replicate a nice bit of E. coli or arsenic or whatever.
Thank God somebody's not trying to relive World War III on the holodeck.
That first season holodeck on TNG could have been a biohazard.
Yeah.
Actually, it was in that episode in Angel 1 when they all get that thing.
But didn't it seem like in Encounter at Farpoint that the Enterprise D's holodeck was really like the most advanced holodeck of all the starships that they had? Because Riker, when he steps into the holodeck, he seems like really amazed at.
I always thought that was like a new technology for that time.
Yeah. So apparently, maybe not every starship at that time had holodecks. Maybe it was just the very newest ones did. I
always thought the Enterprise C had one.
And I don't know, they could have installed one later, but I don't know if they even, maybe some of the ships they did, but I think maybe at the beginning, maybe there was only, some ships had them, and it was only the most advanced ships that had them. But then later they probably installed them in the smaller ships and stuff like that, because remember the Nova didn't have one. And Voyager, this ship didn't have any holodecks.
Voyager had at least one.
I think they had two. And when that episode where they had the hunters on board there, they were forcing them to make more emitters so they could turn the whole ship into a holodeck, basically. But I think they just had just the two holodecks, because remember when they was doing this thing where they wanted to take a transwarp ring from a Borg ship, and they wanted to drill it out so that way they could do this like in so many minutes. And they had the two holodecks running together. They had one holodeck running the bridge of Voyager, and the other holodeck being the Borg interior. And they were trying to, time this out within 4 minutes to get aboard the Borg ship, steal the transwarp thing, come back and use it and get away from the Borg. So I think they only had just two holodecks on Voyager, which was kind of weird to me, because I think the ship was much larger than they kind of sold it as, because.
Because I'm guessing that the Enterprise D had at least 4.
Yeah. I mean, it had, it was a much larger ship, so they must have had at least 4. But
like I said, that's another technology. But as far as Replicators, I'm wondering if that had some elements of replication in it.
Yeah. I'm sure it probably did. I mean, it's just like you said, where there was a few times where they walked out of the holodeck with things, and,
I wanted to ask you a question. Is there anything you wanted to mention Replicator related that I haven't thought of yet?
I don't know. I can't think of anything. No.
It's weird. Neither can I. I guess I don't want to refer back to that video about the New World economy, but I keep thinking of this.
Well, you see, the thing about that is that's like the inspiration that kind of creates all these inventions. is that post-scarcity kind of thing going on.
Think about it. Every time a technology comes along in our society, like the internet, which does represent a certain degree of post-scarcity, there's an attempt by basically capitalism to subsidize it.
Yeah.
But it can't. It never succeeds.
Hmm.
It tries, but somehow it never works.
Yeah.
I always feel the Replicator will be the same way. If you try to invent that, and they immediately try to subsidize it somehow, but they couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, you could have locks on it so it couldn't create money, but how long would that last?
Yeah.
It would make money obsolete.
Yeah.
So like I said, I don't that's why there hasn't been a priority on it. So I guess I'm just trying to apply that to real world science.
I would think that, necessity would have come to a point where they would need to create something like a replicator.
But like I said, that's a different society in the Star Trek world. Their system is different.
Yeah.
Their thought processes are somewhat different.
Yeah.
They use some terminology we do, but it's outside of a context.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, it's easy for me to perceive. But it's like today, I'm just thinking of this. I'm sure in especially some really heavily rural areas, there's actually people who use barter traffic in the sense that, somebody brings in an animal they killed and trade for food or something.
Yeah.
And, imagine if an IRS agent came in trying to figure out how you recorded that sale. It's another whole kind of economic transaction.
Yeah.
Our society isn't set up right now for replicators. It isn't set up for it at all.
Yeah.
It's set up for a scarcity-based economy, which necessitates currency.
Yeah.
And, that conversation can go on a long, long time what the problems with that are, but the replicator would put fundamental human philosophy of the present day into a tailspin. Because to even have it exist, we'd have to alter our philosophical thought about things.
Yeah.
Which, now that I think about it, is already kind of happening. So maybe this might be the time to make a replicator. So
what you're describing is basically why Janeway would never just give out that technology to people, replicators or something like that.
Yeah, because some people might still be in what our current mindset is.
Yeah.
Like
you said, it would send society into a tailspin if somebody had a replicator,
Well, that's another grim side of it. The idea of manufacturing weapons with them.
Yeah.
Or equipment to make weapons or whatever. But,
look, when she gave away that little piece of holodeck technology to the Hirogen.
Yeah, they started creating holographic war fodder.
Yeah, and then they became the fodder.
Right. So basically, what happened is they created basically holographic chattel, and then the chattel revolted.
Yeah.
So war chattel you could call it, but they created that situation. So yeah, that's the grim side of replicators. But the thing is, I don't know. I don't know if Janeway intended it to be that way. I think she's just trying to get rid of the Hirogen, but.
Yeah, but I would think, because when Picard wouldn't help out those people that were addicted to drugs and just basically told them, you're gonna have to figure this out for yourself. That was illustrating just how much they stick to their guns when it comes to the Prime Directive and not giving away technology to societies that don't have what they have, basically. And when she went and did that, it seemed like, it kind of knocked me for a little bit. And I said, wait a minute, she's just said she's going to give them holodeck equipment so they can build their own stuff. Isn't that kind of going against the Prime Directive? When she was willing to sacrifice, getting back home many times because of the Prime Directive,
should we have a Janeway discussion at some point here?
Well, there's
many of them. The Janeway discussion, because there's dilemmas about her character that just apparently are messy.
Yeah, I heard people say that, she's responsible, she's genocidal.
I wouldn't go that far, but
I guess they get that from when remember she was the episode where they were trying to get what would they call that, Zero? Remember where where the board would go when they would go back and
Unimatrix Zero?
Yeah, Unimatrix Zero. And remember the Queen had her kind of hostage and was telling her, look, you tell me how to, get information from her, and she was blowing up cubes, and Janeway was just sitting there letting her do it. And I think people got from that, how could she sit there and let millions and millions of drones just die,
Well, Well, you can say that about Dr. Phlox and Enterprise too, because
Yeah.
he was willing to let there was a species where there were two humanoid races. One was dying out because of the other one,
Yeah.
and he was letting him die basically. But like I said, they were establishing things, so I don't know. There was no prime directive to violate.
Yeah.
The laws are being written, So.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
But yeah, with replicator technology, yeah, I could see the weapon thing being a problem.
Yeah.
But it would throw Earth into a tailspin because it would affect the way the economy worked.
Yeah.
There'd be certainly a military problem with it.
Mm.
So,
Oh yeah, I mean the minute they have something like that, they would turn that into some kind of weapon right off the bat, weaponize it.
I mean, even in the 23rd century, we saw how Genesis was nearly perverted into a weapon situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Once Khan got his hands on it, the only thing he saw with it was a super bomb.
Right, that could just decimate planets. So.
Yeah.
In favor of its new Matrix, but still,
Yeah.
I mean, you can see how Khan would find that appealing. Obviously, you destroy a planet and then build it up into a place where they could colonize it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the thing is that, but still, something like that could, it could also have the effect of changing the way we looked at each other. I mean, I don't know. But in terms of looking at replicator technology in our society, the sad thing is we may have to evolve into it rather than have it.
We'd have to let go of what we use for an economy now in order to have that.
Yes, and we'd also have to look at a different way how we look at killing each other.
Yeah.
We have to look at things a different way. Because, I mean, obviously they have a military division of the Federation, but it functions on a much stronger ethical platform unless it's a major war. Reference to Deep Space Nine, which I want to actually, maybe I should write this stuff down now that I think about it. Do you think it would be a good idea someday to kind of cover the ethics of the Dominion War?
Oh, there's so much there. I mean, about that. And like I said, that they kind of played off of World War II a lot with that whole thing, where they kind of gave you the idea that some things you can't get out of. War was inevitable, and it just I don't know. It just it's a quagmire.
We're kind of drifting away from replicators, but is there anything more you want to add?
Nope, I got pretty much everything.
I'm actually pretty much set with this, but anyway, we'll see you next week. Is it going to be Star Trek 6 next week?
Yes, Star Trek 6. Yeah.
So Star Trek 6. I'm pretty ready for that because there's going to be a little nostalgia tripping with me with that because that was kind of a big deal. So we'll get to that. But anyway, see you next week and live long and prosper.
Bye.